On Bayern Munich, of course, in the Champions League and the press conference ahead of it, some interesting stuff from Neymar. He's talking about a clash with Luis Campos, who's the director of football at PSG, and locker room leaks, saying it happened, a little discussion, we weren't in agreement, it's part of football, things happen every day, but I love them all. It's like with my girlfriend. Football isn't just love and friendship. There's respect, but they have to be disagreements and discussions sometimes are needed to help you improve. Sometimes there are rumours that come out in the press with malice intent. It goes around the world very quickly, a lot of people see it, and sometimes it's lies. It's complicated. Since my arrival, it happens that rumours come out at key moments of the season. They're always rumours. Frankly, I don't know what to do about it. I'm not responsible for it, so we have to try and find out what's going on, because it's not possible that everything that happens in our locker room ends up in the press. It's very sad because there are subjects that can stay between us. When information comes out like this, we're angry, but it's difficult to find out where the leak is coming from. I guarantee you that a lot of information is false, even if some of them are true. Okay? It's part of the lies. Let's welcome in Julien Laurent joins us alongside Jan. Jules, what was the most striking thing that you heard from Neymar today?
To be fair, I think it was good for him to do that press conference. We hadn't heard from him in a long time. What you read about the altercation, let's put it out, the argument that he had with Campos after the Monaco defeat, him and Marquinhos, was interesting. I mean, I just thought he was super confident, which I struggled to understand why, because he's been terrible in the last few games. PSG have been terrible, and for him to come out and say like, yeah, we usually respond in big games. This is a game where we're going to be great. We've discussed the little problem that we all of that. It's just like, I don't know. I would have rather him being a bit more honest, maybe in the sense like saying things are bad. We need to make them right, and this is how we're going to do it, instead of all that waffling, really.
There's always something, Jules, with your lot.
Always, yeah. Always, you're right. I mean, right now, it seems that everything is wrong. They don't play well. They don't win. They've just lost 2 in a row. We mentioned that after the Marseille defeat. There's clearly tensions in there, in the dressing room, which is normal, I guess, when you're a big club and you're not winning and you're not performing, you're not doing well. It's just the wrong time, because February and March are the key month, because they play Bayern, of course, twice. They will have another game in Marseille in the league. They play Lille in the league as well, who are doing really well. So this is not the time to have a crisis. The problem is this is a crisis because they were playing okay before the World Cup, suddenly having the results. Since the restart, they don't play well and they don't have the results. So for a team like that, it's obviously a big problem.
It's a circus, isn't it?
It is a circus, and sometimes you feel sorry for the manager, and other times you just don't, because he's put himself in there. And we thought he was going to go in with this sort of iron fist, Gaultier, and straighten a few of them out. And Jules has seen them a lot more than us and has talked about them, the lack of any ideas and their tactics. But more importantly, now when you're struggling and you've got some big games coming up and you've got that paranoia back within the dressing room about, somebody's leaking stuff out, who is it and all that. When you want your dressing room to be strong,
sure,
whatever goes on in there, you try and keep it in there behind closed doors. And so now you've got all this, worry about these scenarios on top of the football scenarios as well. So everything at the moment is pointing towards them hurtling out of this Champions League.
It's one of the worst things. It's one of the worst things in any football club when there's a mole.
Right. Have you experienced it?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Because everybody's...
Well, then you try to find out who the mole is.
Everybody's looking around, everybody's trying to figure out, and it just...
What's the motivation of the mole?
No idea.
Is it just an attention thing, a power thing?
No idea. Absolutely no idea.
But
maybe that's what the mole would say.
Dan, I will say that.
If you can find them.
Well, I think Jan wants it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that I understand what Steve is saying, because it's not that usual in English football because you don't have so much of the politics that you have on the continent. I obviously know Germany a bit more than France, but I will guess it's a lot of the same. You can have 3 or 4 malls. You can have someone who is producing for Bild-Zeitung, one for Sportbild, one for Kicker, and you just know about that. And that is terrible when things like that's going on, because that kind of ruined kind of the dressing room. And remember, a year ago at Bayern Munich, they were always leaking things out of the dressing room, and that kind of crush any team feeling. And you can understand that Neymar is using a lot of time. I'm not sure about the metaphor about his girlfriend, but somehow it is frustrating when things like that comes out, and it can ruin any team.
Right, let's talk about the game, shall we? Of course, Bayern Munich in the round of 16, Valentine's Day in Paris. It's set up beautifully. Obviously, question marks about Mbappe and whether or not he'll be fit enough to start. A light on the bench, says the front page of L'Équipe. This is what Gauthier had to say about Kylian Mbappe. I'll make the most sensible decision. The first person I'll listen to will be Kylian. He won't just be on the bench for the sake of it. Jules, everyone, the boys always tell me when it's a big game, the player's going to lie and say that he's fine anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if Kylian is lying on that or not, but he's certainly saying today he did the whole training session today. Yesterday he did half of it on his own and the other half with the rest of the team. I don't think they will risk him from kickoff. I see him being on the bench. I think this is certainly the feeling right now in Paris and within the club. But he's going to push until an hour before kickoff tomorrow and saying that he wants to start. And obviously without him, as we've seen in the last few games, it's not the same. And I think against a team like Bayern, who are going to play with a high line, who are going to be aggressive defensively, who will leave a lot of space in behind, if he's not there, nobody in this PSG team will be able to run into that space. So he's even more important tactically on what we know the two teams are going to do. The thing is, you can't risk him, because if you start him and you lose him for 2-3 months, then your season is over.
I think even more so if they make a sensible decision, if he's not 100% and he doesn't start, if PSG can, and I'm saying this, PSG can sort of hang in there. You never thought you'd be saying that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where they are at the moment. Not that Bayern have been brilliant, but they've certainly been better. If they can hang in there, then all those things Jules talked about, they come to fruition in the second leg. In Munich, the fact that Bayern pushing forward, the fact that that space is in behind, they can utilise his pace. But it's about not only making the right decision, but it's about getting to that position of that game still being very much in the balance when it goes to Germany. Now, there's a big question mark whether that is going to be the case. So it's only a decision really that the coach can make. But yeah, you'd want him for the second leg away from home when they're leaving even more space in behind to use his pace.
The concern I suppose is that damage could all be done on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The second leg could be irrelevant.
I'm kind of stuck in the middle, because if generally I would start somebody as opposed to having them on. If you're not sure whether they're right or not, I don't see the point of having them on the bench. You know, if they're able to contribute, then start them and then you can take them off. Or if he doesn't, or if he's feeling it, you take him off. But to not start him because you're scared he gets injured, what is the point of having him on the bench?
Right.
I don't think that makes any sense at all. If he can confidently start the game and he might feel it and he can come off, then I would do that.
Right.
But I wouldn't. If there's any thoughts that you might lose him for 2 or 3 months, then just keep him away. Don't even put him on the bench.
From a Bayern perspective, Jan, things have changed quite a bit, haven't they, over the last couple of weeks, considering how they started 2023. They'll go into this tie as favourites and have a lot of belief in themselves they can get something done.
Absolutely. They made some changes. They had a midfielder too much, which they put on the bench, and then they found out that we have to play with Thomas Müller, he got to be there, and we have to play Musiala, he got to be there. We have to play Goretzka, we have to play Kimmich. So then they changed a bit around. They play with 3 at the back, and that's how they got another space in midfield. But I got to say as well that although PSG is weakened, they're out of form, I think that it's also a mind game going on, because Julian Nagelsmann, as Craig was saying, Julian Nagelsmann likes to have a high line, and as long as they keep kind of Mbappe in the contention, Julian Nagelsmann got to plan for that. I think that he will now sit in Paris and thinking of how they're going to play when Mbappé play from the beginning, and everything else is a bonus. So yes, Bayern is better. Bayern scoring goals. Bayern is more organized. They have the best players on the pitch, but I don't think they're 100% confident on their form yet. But I will see them as favorites against PSG, but not like. There's no way that it's going to be decided in Paris. This is over 2 games, I think, with Bayern and PSG.
Let's take a look then at everyone's predictions regarding what the score's going to be and who's going to go through eventually. Who's going for PSG? Frank? Jules is going for a 2-2 draw. Bayern to go through eventually. Stevie going for a 1-1 draw. Everyone else going for a Bayern victory. Jules, are you going? Are you wearing your full PSG kit?
I will be going. I'll be pitch side, and I can't wear my full colours, but I'll have the Lucky T-shirt underneath the shirt and the jumper and everything. And I'll be watching like this because I'm too scared. I'm too scared that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, Jules, how disastrous is it if something bad does happen with regards to PSG, the season, the project, etc.?
I think what's fascinating in that game is that, like we said, February and March are key. You can basically lose everything. They're 5 points clear in the league, but considering the pace that they're going in the league and how Marseille are doing well and Monaco are doing so well, they can soon be level with PSG, for example, and then you're under pressure on the league. You're already out of the cup, the domestic cup. If you get knocked out, let's say badly by Bayern, which is obviously very possible, by March you're out of the Champions League as well, and then suddenly the crisis is there. I mean, the ultras are already not happy. There could be tension tomorrow with the fans within the stadium too. They turn up at the training ground, all that kind of stuff, which would get even bigger and heavier if they are knocked out, if they lose heavily tomorrow and even before the second leg in Munich on March the 8th. And then if they get knocked out over there, it's obviously even worse. So all of that, can you just imagine if they lose 2-0, let's say, tomorrow, then they would have to go to Marseille in between. It could get toxic that I think, even for Galtier, for his pressure for Luis Campos, who clearly the players, as we saw with the argument with Neymar and Marquinhos, have issues with, like all of that, it could turn out to be really nasty.
She'll be fine, Jules. Don't worry. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.